What's going on, guys? We are back for some predictions for the end of league play for North America and Europe. Before we start, please sub to the channel if you like the content. We're going to try and hit 100K by the end of 2020. That's only if I actually sell out and keep saying to sub to the channel if you guys appreciate the work. And if we do, we're going to do some dumb things. We'll have to think about what we're doing. I'll probably do like 3 things. I'm not sure yet. One of them will probably be getting one of those giant Pikachu costumes. Probably make Rocket League content with that. It's mostly for Giblet too. And then we'll see about the other 2. So if you guys have any ideas, throw them in the YouTube comments below. But let's get into the video. NA predictions. We're probably not going to recap as much because we're going to be talking about NA and EU and like playoff scenarios are going to be mixed in here as well. So we're going to try and keep this one relatively short. We all know what happened last week. Fireburner, Cloud9, great. Space Station, claps Rogue. Sonics, claps Flight. They didn't look that good. Cloud9, they clap Ghost. Cloud9's back, baby. Pittsburgh Knights didn't look great. They still beat E United. Energy versus G2. Just do a coin flip for G2, the glass cannon offense versus their defense. And, yeah. There you go. That's your recap for NA. We only need a few words. Let's get into it. Energy versus Ghost to begin the day. A very good game. A battle of the top 6. 2 of the top 6. It's probably... I'm trying to think. One of 3 of the top 6 battles? Yeah, one of the 3 of the top 6 battles with G2 having the other 2 at Space Station and Sonics. This one should be pretty good. I was a little disappointed in Ghost last week. I know Cloud9, you know, is returning to form, but Ghost has looked pretty good to me recently, especially like after taking down G2. You would think they would continue that trend, but Rocket League's hard to stay consistent at. So it is what it is. I think Ghost could win this game, for sure. They have a lot riding on this. They need to beat Energy to not have to worry at all about playoff scenarios on the other side versus Pittsburgh Knights and Cloud9. Yeah, I think it has to be, like, even if they win 2 games, which I'll check, which I keep forgetting all the playoff scenarios. On the other side for Energy, they have a small chance at top 2. So they're still playing for something as well. But game differential does not favor them as we look over here to our fancy sheet. Energy's at +6 right now. G2, they have 1 less win and they're at +8. So automatically they have a huge game differential advantage there. The Sonics, huge game differential. They basically lose all game differential cases here. The only one they could possibly win is, I guess, Space Station maybe. But even that, I don't really think they could. I think they can only tie them and Space Station's beat Energy already. So yeah, Energy holds none of those tiebreakers for game differential. So they really need things to go their way. I do think Energy is going to win this. I could see Ghost winning it. But I think Energy is going to pull it out because it's coming near playoff time. That they're probably going to get a little bit more serious. Ghost, I still think, is a quality team. And I think Ghost could make a run through the regional championships. I was disappointed by last week, so I can't pick them this week. So I'm going to go with 3-1 for Energy here, which now gives them a 50-50 shot of making it to the top 2, which really comes down to one other match, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But next up, we have probably the widest gap in skill for the day. Space Station versus E United. The reason why this one's played earlier, if you didn't see why we changed the schedule, go back and watch that video. But we changed it basically because Space Station very likely will lock up top 2 versus E United. It doesn't really matter if we put G2 first here because it's not that important for Space Station in terms of top 2 because they play E United later. We're just trying to get this game out of the way. We're going to go 3-0 here because I think Space Station's defense is going to lock down E United, who doesn't really have much of an offense right now. E United hasn't looked that good. That will knock them out for a chance at grabbing that Pittsburgh Knights spot for top 7. So that'll throw them into the promotion tournament for E United with that loss. So it is a big game for E United because if they do win, it puts pressure on Pittsburgh Knights, and then they could steal that 7th spot. So that's why E United is there. So they're still playing for something. Which I don't think I actually mentioned that part of it when I was talking about the schedule change. But that's another reason. Next up, you got Pittsburgh Knights versus Cloud9. The battle for playoffs, essentially. So this one, depending on what Ghost does, could just be one of these teams gets in and one of them doesn't. They could also both get in. I think right now, based on what I have, I think if if the Knights won 3-2, they would both get in, and Ghost would actually be out. But Cloud9, they are still playing for a top 4 spot. I think they are the better team. Right now, Pittsburgh Knights hasn't looked that good versus even lesser competition, while Cloud9 is surging. That who knows, maybe they run the table at this point. I honestly have no idea. I assume we're going to see some mistake riddle Cloud9 again at some point. I don't think it'll happen against the Knights. I'll give it a 3-1 here for Cloud9, which will knock Pittsburgh Knights into the 7th spot with just 3 wins. Ghost Gaiman would also make playoffs and now be the 6th seed. Cloud9 would get the 5th seed with a possible chance at a top 4 still based on what G2 does later. Moving on. We got G2 versus Space Station. The battle for a chance for G2 to get the 1st seed. Space Station really wants that 1st seed because a lot of people will talk about top 2. Top 2 is very important. The number 1 seed, also incredibly important because you don't play basically the better team from the 3 and 4 seeds because whoever wins that match will play the 2 seed going into the semifinals. The 1 seed will get either that loser or the winner coming out of 5 and 6. So you might get a team that's high momentum, like out of the 5th, 6th seed, but I still think it's better than playing a better team in the 3 and 4 spot, personally. But you could also just get the 4th seed if they are clearly better than the 5th, 6th. So Space Station really wants that number 1 seed. I think they will nab it. G2 did beat them in the Astro tournament, but I'm still giving this one to Space Station. We'll go 3-2 because that's fun. So there we go. So we got G2 there. And also with that loss from G2, if Energy won earlier, then G2 would be knocked out of a top 2 potential spot. So, moving on. We're going to go to Rogue versus Flight, the battle for 10th place. So this one, no matter what happens, we see here -13, -12. No matter what happens here, they will flip if Flight wins, because Flight, at worst, 3-2 would give them -12. Rogue would move to -13. Even if they did tie, which they can't, then it goes to head-to-head, so Flight would win that as well. But if Rogue wins, then they get bumped out of that spot. That they could take over the 8th spot, it doesn't really matter. 8th or 9th in promotion, really, it doesn't matter. Like, you get an easier first-round game, but at the end of the day, you have to win 2 games anyway, so whatever. So we got Rogue versus Flight. So this is one of those picks that I feel is like a trendy pick to pick Flight, and I want to pick Flight, but I can't. I feel like Flight, they still don't have a lot of offensive firepower on that team. Rogue has shown signs of life at different times. I think Rogue is the better team. I'm going to give this one a 3-1, and Flight will be knocked down out of the Rlcs into the rival series. Rogue will survive for at least one more day, go into the promotion tournament with E United. So now, if we look at what we got one match left, G2 versus Sonics. So we got Flight last, E United 9th, Rogue 8th, Pittsburgh Knights 7th, Ghost 6th, Cloud9 5th. Now this is the important game. Technically for G2, it doesn't matter about their placement in the 3 or 4 spot, because that is the same exact matchup. But this game is actually very important, say all this unfolds this way. Because, say G2, they are a better team than Sonics. If they beat the Sonics, they knock them out of a top 2 spot. So Energy will grab a top 2 spot. But on top of that, the first game next week that G2 gets, they get to play the Sonics again. So this is actually a pretty good game for G2 to take very seriously. Sure, you don't move up necessarily, but if you beat the Sonics, then you should feel very confident going into the final week playing the Sonics again. If you lose, then Sonics get a top 2 seed. You play NRG, who just beat you recently. So it doesn't mean that G2 won't feel, somewhat confident versus NRG, but I think they would rather the Sonics if they can beat them, obviously. So this is still a pretty big game. I'm going to go with 3-1 for G2 because I think G2's offense and the way Sonics play defense, they've slowly been transitioning away from that, but I think G2 will just just be on the other side of the field the entire time, and G2 should get the win there, as long as they can clean up their defense just a little bit. So, at the end of the day, with all my predictions, these matches are not in the right order. Obviously, it's based on the order here. Just on the playoff scenario sheet, it's not correct. So, keep that in mind. But we got Space Station, the number 1 seed. Energy, the number 2 seed. They both get buys to the top 4, to the semifinals, to the money zone. Then you got G2 Esports will play the Sonics for one of their 2 chances to go into the semifinals. Whoever wins that will play NRG when we get to the semifinals. Cloud9 and Ghost Gaiman, they have 1 life left. They have to win 2 games. Cloud9 and Ghost will battle it out in the 5th, 6th spot. Whoever wins will get the loser of the Sonics and G2 for a spot in the semifinals. Pittsburgh Knights, they will be through to RLCS Season 10. Rogue and E United to the promotion tournament, and Flight will be going down to the rival series. So that's how we played these ones out. Moving over, we'll go to Europe. I'll try to do this as quickly as I can, but, obviously, everything takes a long time. So we're going to go over to Europe. We're at 10 minutes anyway right now for NA, so we'll try and we'll get this done before we hit the 20-minute mark. I don't want to keep you guys here for a long time. So, same thing. The schedule has changed. Europe is a lot harder. There is going to be games that don't mean anything no matter what happens if certain results go certain ways. But it is what it is. So here's the schedule here. We got really quick recap. Dignitas, they take down Endpoint, and Endpoint actually didn't look that bad. Maybe Dignitas looked a little bit weaker last week. Possibly. Rec, they take down TSM. Not too surprising there. Team Singularity in a very close 5-minute overtime Game 5 takes down Endpoint. They just beat them again this week in Johnny Boy's tournament. So Team Singularity clearly going for that number 7 spot, but they have been knocked out of playoff contention. Dignitas takes down Veloce in a very close series. 4 overtimes. Dignitas prevails in Game 5 off the backs of Astral. Then you got Barsa versus Monaco, a 3-2 win that Monaco should have definitely won. They own gold in Game 3 overtime. They gave up a 0-second goal in Game 5 to tie it. Barsa takes that win. Barsa, I do not like this team right now. They don't look that good, in my opinion. Monaco, they're playing for their lives at this point. I don't know how you throw that. Monaco, what are you doing? Next up, Vitality versus Mouse. Scrub versus his old team. Vitality beat them so bad that Scrub quit Mouse. Simple as that. Vitality is the best team in the world, in my opinion. There you go. Moving on. Monaco versus Team Singularity. So this game means a ton for Endpoint and TSM. Basically, if Team Singularity wins, Endpoint, you are done and you're going to the promotion tournament. If Monaco loses, TSM, you're into the promotion tournament and you don't go down into 10th place. That's exactly what I think is going to happen. Say this result flips, Endpoint and TSM are playing for a ton because if Endpoint wins, they move up and take Team Singularity spot for number 7. And if TSM lose based on game differential, they could possibly fall to 10th place. But I don't think it matters because Team Singularity seems like they're getting hotter and hotter as the season goes on now versus the bottom teams. So I expect this one to be pretty simple. Monaco will probably win Game 1. Team Singularity will win the rest. So a 3-1, which knocks Monaco down to 10th spot no matter what. What this also does, it clinches all of the bottom 4. Team Singularity is now number 7. Endpoint's number 8. TSM's number 9. No matter what, if you put TSM or Endpoint first, then other things will clinch as well. So I would rather see the hype matchup of ASM versus Team Singularity when everything's on the line rather than a TSM or Endpoint versus harder competition. Maybe Mouse is not as hard now, but still, I would still prefer this. Moving on. So we got that match done. You go to Endpoint Mouse. I think Mouse with a sub will win in Game 5, just like Fireburner. It's also because for Endpoint, it's going to be a little bit demoralizing that they can't get their 7th spot now. I could see them playing a little bit worse. Mouse obviously playing with Arju. It's not going to be easy for them because they probably haven't practiced with him a lot. Like I haven't actually looked up what he's been doing lately. Most of the time when you sub, you're just not playing Rocket League as seriously, so he's got to catch up incredibly quickly. But I think Mouse will pull out the win to make the rest of the day exciting for us in Game 5. Probably Game 5 overtime winner by Arju, obviously. Next up, we got Barcelona versus TSM, or Barsa versus TSM. Barsa, while I don't like this team right now, I still think they're one of the weaker playoff teams based on recent performance. They're still playing for a top 2 spot. See right here? They need some help, but they're still playing for a top 2 spot, and obviously they have a really good chance at top 4. This is a series they cannot lose for that to happen, or at least that to help them on their way. I think they will pull off the win. I think TSM, it's really been like the Magnus show lately, and that's it. I just don't like TSM all that much in the cohesion department. Their offense is completely miserable, so we'll see. Moving on, so that TSM as well, not really playing for anything there. Maybe that helps them because they're playing a little bit more carefree. Who knows? Moving on, we got one thing I do want to see is TSM and Endpoint take those matches pretty seriously, though, because it's good practice going into the promotion tournament, but we'll see if that happens. Next, we got Rec versus Dig. Rec is trying to play for a top 4 spot. Dig is trying to clinch a top 2 with the pressure from Barsa on the line there. So I think Dig will pull this out. I think Dig's a better team. I think Rec has been relatively mediocre this season, which is still a good sign because I still would consider them a top 5 team and that they're 1 win away from being better than that. So, being a top 4 team. So, Rec, I think they'll lose 3-1. I like Dignitas here. Even though Dignitas was a little bit weaker last week, they also lost to Samrock Gaming through that this week. I still think Dig will bounce back at some point and clinch a top 2 spot, as you see here. Moving on. We got Barsa versus Mouse. If this was Mouse with Scrub, I would have Mouse winning the series. But because it's not, I have Barsa winning. We'll go 3-1. I think it's going to be very hard for Arju to get ready for the series. Like, you can have all the clean rotations you want, but when it comes to game speed, it's going to be very difficult to play at an Rlcs level when I don't know exactly how much he's been playing lately. So I think it's going to be tough. I think Barsa kind of got the easy part of the schedule here. For them to get this lucky matchup where they're playing mouse sports without Scrub. But hey, you play your schedule, right? So Barsa, they will get the number 3 seed more in the backs of their games earlier in the season. 7 wins for Barsa, and I don't like this team at all. And they're going to have 7 wins in Europe. Reminds me of Veloce, kind of. But they will get the 3 seed if all these results hold true. And then we got... Finally, Vitality versus Veloce. So both these teams are playing for a lot. Vitality playing for first place. We talked about the importance before with Space Station. It's the same thing for Vitality. Veloce is playing for a top 4 spot. So what really comes down to the Rec and Dignitas and Veloce and Vitality, it could come down to who loses by less to get that top 4 spot between Veloce and Rec. Unless they obviously beat them. Veloce's been closer. When they tried to battle Dig, but I still think Dig wasn't looking as good. Like, Dig beat them more handily this week in the European Invitational, and I think Vitality, their offense is just completely unmatched, and I think this could be a 3-0 or a 3-1 possibly. So if it is a 3-1, Reciprocity would get the number 4 seed. So let's go over what we got here. So Vitality would clinch number 1, Dignitas number 2. So those two will be in the money zone in the semifinals. Barsa versus Reciprocity going into the playoffs. Whoever wins that plays Dignitas in the semis. Whoever loses plays the winner of Mouse and Veloce, which isn't a terrible spot for Veloce if, Arju is not playing all that well. It kind of adds, an easier matchup, but you still don't want to be like in that 5th, 6th spot because you want 2 chances at it, right? Like for Rec, they could lose to Barsa and then have another shot at Veloce, or something like that. So, Veloce versus Mouse, whoever wins that will play Rec or Barsa, whoever loses that, for the last and final semifinal spot. We'll see if it plays out this way. We talked about it before, but the bottom gets locked up after the first match, unless Monaco wins. And if Monaco wins, it could be a very exciting day for those first 3 games. But Team Singularity, number 7, they'll be into the RLCS Season 10, based on my predictions. Endpoint, TSM into the promotion tournament, and Monaco goes straight down to the rival series. That's how it all plays out. And sometimes it comes down to game differential. As you can see here, based on my predictions, and I didn't do this on purpose, a 3-way tie at game differential here. Veloce, Mouse, and Rec would tie all evenly. And let's go back over here and see what those results were. So Mouse, they swept Veloce. So what it comes down to when there's a 3-way tie in game differential as well, it goes to a 3-way head-to-head. So Mouse swept Veloce, so that's really going to hurt them. Veloce beat Rec in 5. So right there, Veloce's at a -2 game differential, and that's why they would fall all the way down to last place. Rec would have a -1 here, and then we got to find where they played Mouse, if I can remember anything. I think they played them, I don't remember at all. Or do they put... No, they don't play them this week, obviously. Where is it? It was week 1? No. Am I just blind, guys? I'm going to have to Control F this. Let's just Control F and find these games. Oh, God. Oh, boy. Oh, boy, guys. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Here we go. Rec. Oh, here we go. 3-1 versus Mouse. So they got a 3-1 versus Mouse, and they lost to Veloce in 5, which gives them a +1. What that also means is then Mouse would also have a +1 if you're thinking about everything has to be equal because they got a sweep over Veloce, and then they lose to Rec by 2 games. So Rec and Mouse would actually tie at +1/+1. They would then redo their tiebreakers at head-to-head. Rec would win it based on the head-to-head versus Mouse. So that's how those tiebreakers would work out. And that is why this is what you see here. So it could be incredibly close. It could come down to a single game, depending if you're 4th or 6th at this point. And that's why every single match, every single game matters throughout the season. And Barsa, with a +9 at 7-2, would get the 3rd place spot. And then Dig and Vitality, 8-1, both of them would finish in the top 2. But Vitality had a really good game differential throughout. On the bottom here, we can see Monaco -17, but they have one less win, so it doesn't matter too much. Team Singularity would kind of pull ahead here at this point at -5 versus Endpoint's -7. But if this was flipped and Endpoint won, the game differential wouldn't matter at all for Endpoint for tiebreakers, because Endpoint has such a good game differential, where here it doesn't look like it. Obviously -7 versus -5, but that's with 2 less wins. So that automatically, like say they won 2 game 5s, 2 go to 4 wins, would put them at -5, and that's like the minimum that could happen, right? So they actually have a really good game differential. It's just unfortunate that there would be 2-7. Like -7 at 2-7, that's rough. That's rough for Endpoint. They had a lot of close series, just couldn't pull it out. But that's it for our predictions for week 7, I think technically is what we're calling it. Liquipedia has it as week 8. Whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. It's for the final week. Simple as that. So thank you guys for watching. We went over 20 minutes because I described too long there. Sorry, guys. But that'll do it. I'll see you on the desk Saturday and Sunday in my basement. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.